Was that montage necessary? Probably not, but it was funny to make. The same can be said about this video. Cid is probably the only character in Final Fantasy Tactics that has a reputation of being overpowered by default, and I'm not here to argue. But I can try and explain why he is so overpowered from the start, or how can you maximize that with minimal effort. Also, you could notice that my little avatar here is now more or less animated. And this will really help me with the amount of busy work that goes into production of this rambling of mine. So big shout out to Luna for upgrading my sprites to voice activated PNG model. And now, let's break down why the Thunder God is what he is. Orlandeau's unique job is Sword Saint, and it's a very lazy design with absurd numbers attached. Let's start with those. Sword Saint not only has a very good stat growth overall, but also great modifiers to everything except magical attack. Which is kind of funny when you notice his magic attack growth coefficient is behind only Dragonkin and Mime. And that means he can easily reach better magic attack values than male magic focus unique characters, like Beowulf, Marak or Cloud. Hell, he can probably have better magic attack base than some female units in your party. His physical attack growth is marginally worse than Knight, but still a very good number. He even has a slight boost to speed for some reason. Of course, he comes with movement 4, great HP and MP growth raise, and 20% base class evasion. All in all, you can just level him in a class he starts in and still end up with a stat spread that can overperform most generic units and unique characters. On top of that, Sword Saint has access to all gear types, can use shields, and while weapon selection is a little bit limited, he can use most OP equipment type in the game, Knight Swords. So there's no balancing between skill access, gear access and job attributes modifiers, he gets them all in one package. My rant about this design mistake is not done yet, since we need to talk about his job unique skill set a little, but not in the way you expect. In my opinion, Swordplay is probably the worst designed skill set in the whole game. It's basically 3 jobs in one, and 2 of them are also staple to story characters that can join your party. The third one is unavailable in this version of the game, and that means Orlandeau has 2 unique skills on his own. Of course, on top of being the amalgamation of Agrias and Megadil skills, with higher base physical attack or being a male. I know he's supposed to be the greatest swordsman in the land and an incarnation of the badass old man trope, but with limited party size, he's basically 3 unique units in one party slot. And that hurts aforementioned ladies very much. From a fully practical point of view, deploying him instead of both female knights is optimal. You have access to their combined skill sets and some more, all in singular units. That has probably even better stats than them. And of course, there's also one more elephant in the room that we need to talk about. His starting weapon, Excalibur. A 21 weapon power monstrosity that not only boosts holy damage when equipped, but also allows equipped units to absorb holy damage. Oh, and grant permanent haste effect, which is probably the most broken aspect of the weapon. A typical player has no other source of this at this point in the game when Orlandeau joins the party, and his weapon is also among the strongest you could see. And that makes our Grandpa not only the fastest unit in our party, he can also be the most hard-hitting one, with skills that scale not only from his physical attack value, but also from weapon power, not to mention that they ignore evasion and are instant speed. He's designed to steamroll opponents and be a crutch for anyone that struggles with anything in the base story encounters. I could say that's a nice solution that helps the subset of players if he didn't join in Chapter 4. At this point in the game, a player probably figured out how to get by, or dropped the game already. Okay, rant over. Time to actually talk about mechanics now. I'll skip the skills from Holy Knight and Divine Knight. You can check my breakdown of them in MacLeod's and Agrias video. Give the girls some love. But I'll be honest, Agrias 1 is a little bit rough. Since it was done before I did my head-first dive into the mechanics of the Ivalice Chronicles, I could probably tune up the numbers better now. But before I get sidetracked again, let's go back to the Cid skills. Shadow Blade and Dusk Blade both have a very simple damage scaling of physical attack times weapon power. The first one drains HP, the second one MP. Both are very good skills for different reasons. Shadow Blade can make our grandpa virtually immortal, easily healing him to full turn after turn. On Tactician, its damage and healing is capped at around 700, but that's more than enough. And Dusk Blade is a perfect crowd control skill versus enemy spellcaster. It will drain MP of most enemies in one go, while fully replenishing Cid's own MP pool, with no risk of killing them by accident. To be honest, with only those two skills, Orlandeau will still be a powerhouse and very strong choice to deploy in almost all situations. The fact that he has access to everything else is just bizarre to me. But well, here we are. Skills aside, let's talk some more about the number that Sword Saint brings to the table, and the impact those have on possibilities. The obvious road for Cid is just go for the physical attack min-max, but he actually is a very competent spellcaster, or Spadeblade hybrid build. With a very good magic attack growth rate, you can easily set White Magic as his second active skill set. With Excalibur in hand, he can reach quite nice numbers when casting Holy, especially if you give him Genji Gauntlet for double dip for physical attack and magical attack boost. He is also a very competent user of Geomancy skills. Of course, in terms of damage the numbers will be lower than his wordplay options, but there's some utility to be had there. The same with Iaido. We have above average magic attack value, with an ability to boost this quite easily. So that's another option to play around. But I'll be honest, I didn't bother with any of those myself. I am not hipster enough for that. My Orlandeau is a simple, juiced up one-man army. His level progression was very simple. Sword Saint until unlocking Ninja, and then Ninja for better speed and still good physical attack growth. After I started playing around with maximizing stats with the leveling, I dropped him once in Bard to level 1. Then proceed to level him up again in Sword Saint. This is my result. Physical attack 33, magic attack 14, speed 13, and 999 HP with 113 MP. Also, Bravery boosted to 97 and Fate dropped to 3. I did mention that Sword Saint modifiers are busted, right? Of course, we also need appropriately OP skill slot, starting from the bottom. With Bard unlocked and used for the leveling, movement plus 3 was a thing best in slot choice. For support skill I've slotted Dual Wield, for a very specific, totally unnecessary reason. The reaction slot goes to Shirahadori, because of course it does. And the second active skill set of choice for me is Arts of War. Stat breaks are useful if you want to do really stupid things in this game. As far as equipment goes, I decided to do something stupid. And the easiest option to do so was to use Dual Wield that was mentioned earlier. But let's start from the accessory. For the first time in my videos, a character is using Sortilège, or whatever you pronounce that, it's probably French. Nevertheless, that gives Cid a permanent shell and protect effect. Let's skip ahead for now and move to head equipment. The Ivalice Chronicles unlocked equipment for everybody, so of course the most OP defensive item will find its place in the low range. Grandpa wears a ribbon, and you cannot do anything about it. As far as weapons go, I've gave him a Chaos Blade in the main hand, and move his Excalibur to the offhand. Obscene weapon power for skills formula aside, this setup gives him permanent regen and haste effects. And for the body slot, well, he does not really need anything here. I'm running with Power Garb, but you can go wild in there. Wide Rope for reduced elemental damage, ninja gear for additional speed and invisibility, or mirror mail for reflect. The last option is probably the funniest one if you want to solo maps with it, but that's beside the point. With this setup, Grandpa starts the fight with permanent regen, haste, protect and shell effects, and he's immune to most status effects. Shira Hadori gives him 97% parry rate against physical attack, with an additional 33% damage reduction from protect on top of this. With his fate reduced to 3 and with shell active, almost all magic deals virtually no damage to him. He also heals quite a bit each turn with regen, and even his basic attack can reach damage cap, since Chaos Blade sports a weapon power of 40. So with the damage formula for Night Swords, his basic attack deals 1358 damage, capped at 999 of course. The Excalibur follow-up attack has only 712 damage baseline, but aside from bosses nothing really will survive the first hit anyway. That would be enough to deal with almost anything, but we can actually use his job skills to deal maximum damage to multiple targets each turn, or heal up with Shadow Blade if for some reason an enemy is able to deal significant damage to us. This loadout is boring AF. There's nothing creative about this, but it's probably the closest to perfect optimization that can be done in this game, and I think it's kinda sad. I like this version of Cid as a character. He has some nice story bits, and while the badass old man trope is kinda funny, it's also a classic Japanese thing to put in their storylines. My main issue with him as a playable character is the sheer power level of his kit, and Excalibur as a cherry on top. He overshadows anything else and takes center stage in the party as soon as he's available. MacLeod is hit the hardest by this, since she joins after Cid and is immediately compared to him in terms of utility and power. She loses in both aspects in a quite spectacular way. Nevertheless, sometimes you need a very solid hammer to do a very simple job in a fast and efficient way. And Cid is that hammer. This turned out to be more ranty than I anticipated at the start. I think I need to figure out more appropriate name to the video and thumbnail that build guide. But I'm sure my sentiment towards Orlandeau is not as hot as some other takes I've expressed in other videos. Feel free to argue in the comment section. Other than that, drop a like for the video, sub to the channel, and wait for Ramses' turn. I actually had some fun with him. See ya in the next one.